My wife came back after 2 weeks away with her ex. She called it closure. I didn't challenge her, didn't change my tone. While clearing the table, I asked one simple question. She froze, halfway through standing up, didn't look at me, didn't sit back down, just reached for her phone with shaking hands. My name is Daniel. I am 37 years old, and for 9 years, I thought I had built something real. Clara and I met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner in the fall of our late 20s. She was wearing a dark green sweater and laughing at something someone across the table had said, and I remember thinking that her laugh was completely unguarded in a way that most adults learn to contain. We dated for 2 years before we got married in a small ceremony in the backyard of her parents' house in Eugene. 40 people, string lights. Her father cried during the vows. We had a house in Portland with a leaky second bathroom we kept meaning to fix, a dog named Qley who slept at the foot of the bed and refused to be moved, and routines that felt comfortable in the way that good marriages do. The kind of comfortable that you mistake for contentment until something comes along and shows you that you had been confusing stillness with safety. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized tech firm downtown. I ran my own consulting business from the spare room we had converted into an office, the one with the window that looked out over the neighbor's oak tree. We were talking about starting a family. We had started discussing schools, neighborhoods, timelines. Nothing was broken. Nothing needed fixing. Then her ex contacted her. His name was Marcus. They had dated for 4 years before Clara and I ever met, back when she was in her early 20s and still figuring out what she wanted from the world. She had described him to me once, early in our relationship, during one of those late-night conversations where you lay everything out honestly because you want the other person to know the full map of you. She called him her first real love, the kind of relationship that shapes you before you are finished becoming who you are. He had moved away, gotten married, built his own life somewhere in Colorado. As far as I knew, he was a chapter that had been fully closed. He reached out through Instagram, a direct message. His marriage was falling apart, he said. He wanted to reconnect with old friends, get some perspective. Clara showed me the message herself, and I remember feeling a particular kind of dread that I told myself was irrational. She asked if she could meet him for coffee. Just coffee, downtown, a Tuesday afternoon. I said yes because in that moment saying no would have made me the controlling husband, the insecure one, the man who could not handle his wife having a past. That single cup of coffee cost me everything. The texts started almost immediately after that. I would watch her across the living room, sitting on the couch with Qley pressed against her side, and her face would shift into an expression I barely recognized. A private smile. The kind that belongs to something that has nothing to do with the room you are standing in. When I asked who she was talking to, she said it was Marcus. Old memories, she said. Catching up. Harmless. I believed her because I did not want to believe anything else. Then one night, maybe 3 weeks after that first coffee, we were getting ready for bed. I was brushing my teeth. She was sitting on the edge of the mattress, still fully dressed, which should have told me something. She waited until I came back into the bedroom and then told me, in a voice that was carefully neutral, that Marcus wanted her to take a trip with him. 2 weeks. Back to a place they had visited together when they were a couple. Somewhere on the coast of Portugal she had never mentioned to me before our marriage. She called it closure. She said it would cost her around $2,400 in flights and accommodations, money from her personal account that she had apparently already mentally budgeted before the conversation began. She said she needed this, that unresolved feelings she still carried from that relationship were quietly affecting our marriage in ways I could not see, that she needed space to figure out what she really wanted. That last sentence hung in the bedroom like smoke from a fire in the walls. I argued for an hour. I told her it was insane, that no rational reading of that situation painted it as anything other than what it obviously was. She told me I was being insecure, that my reaction was exactly the kind of emotional limitation she was trying to work through. I told her she was asking my permission to have an emotional affair at minimum, and possibly something far more than that, all while calling it personal growth. She told me I was making it into something it was not. I went silent because I had run out of words that were reaching her. She took that silence as a yes. 3 days later, she packed a suitcase, the large one I had bought her for our anniversary 2 years earlier, kissed me on the cheek with the lightness of someone leaving for a work conference, and drove away. The first week nearly destroyed me in ways I did not anticipate. I had thought I would be angry. Instead, I was just hollow. The house had a particular quality of silence that I had never noticed before, the kind that does not feel peaceful, but rather like an absence of something load-bearing. Huxley slept on her side of the bed, and I did not move him. The texts from Clara were sparse and curated. Weather is nice. Good conversations. We went to this amazing little restaurant. Nothing that contained real information. Nothing that invited me in. I told the 2 friends I saw that week that she was visiting family in Eugene. I was not about to admit that my wife was on a 2-week trip to Portugal with her ex-boyfriend under the philosophical cover of self-discovery and closure. By day 10, the messages stopped entirely. 3 full days of silence. I called twice. The first call rang out. The second went directly to voicemail, which meant she had seen it and declined. I sat in the spare office at my desk, staring at the oak tree outside the window, and understood something clearly for the first time. Whatever was happening in Portugal was not something she wanted me to have access to, and the only reason a person locks a door is because they know what is behind it. On day 13, I received one message. Coming home tomorrow. We should talk. 5 words and 4. 9 words total to summarize 2 weeks of whatever she had chosen over the life we were building. She walked through the front door at 6:30 on a Tuesday evening, tanned, rested, her hair a little lighter from the sun, pushed back behind her ears. She looked more at peace than I had seen her in years, which was its own kind of devastating detail to register. I had spent those 2 weeks unraveling, and she had spent them arriving somewhere. Huxley went to her immediately, tail moving in that full-body way dogs have, entirely unbothered by the weight of what was happening. I had made dinner. Pasta with a simple tomato sauce, a salad, bread I had picked up from the bakery 2 blocks over. Nothing elaborate, nothing that said I was trying too hard. $40 worth of effort from a man who did not know yet whether he still had a marriage. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, and she told me the trip gave her clarity, that revisiting the past, being in those places again, helped her understand at a deeper level why things had ended with Marcus. That she now knew, without question, that she wanted our marriage. That she wanted to be here, with me, building what we had been building. She said it with the measured calm of someone who had rehearsed the speech on the flight home. I should have felt relief. The sentence contained the words I was supposed to need. Instead, something cold settled into the center of my chest like water filling a cavity. Because she was describing a conclusion without describing the process. She was handing me the verdict without allowing me into the courtroom. I sat with that for a long moment, and then I asked if she had slept with him. She looked at the table. She said we should not focus on physical details, that breaking things down that way was not helpful, that it missed the larger emotional truth of what the experience had meant. She never said no. She did not say yes either. She simply removed the question from the room by refusing to stand inside it, and in doing so, she answered it more completely than either yes or no could have. We ate mostly in silence after that. The pasta was fine. The bread was good. Huxley lay under the table with his head on my foot, which is something he did when he sensed I needed the weight of him there. When the plates were mostly empty, I stood up and started clearing the table. She stood too. We moved around the kitchen the way we had moved around it 1,000 times across 9 years of being in each other's orbit. Her washing, me drying. The same choreography of a shared life, running on muscle memory, even when the life itself had become unrecognizable. I dried the pasta bowls. I put away the salad plates. I folded the dish towel over the handle of the oven door the way I always did, and while I was placing the last plate into the cabinet, completely calm, voice level, I asked the question that had been forming in the back of my mind since the precise moment I watched her walk back through that front door, looking like someone who had returned from something, not someone who had come home. If he had been available, I said, would you have come back? She froze. She was halfway through the motion of standing up from where she had leaned against the counter, and the motion simply stopped. Like a film frame held. Her body caught between 2 positions, unable to complete either one. She did not look at me. She did not sit back down. She did not say anything. What she did was reach for her phone, which was sitting on the counter beside the dish rack, and she picked it up with hands that were visibly shaking. Not trembling, shaking. The kind of shaking that happens when the body has been asked to hold something too heavy for too long, and the question has finally named the weight out loud. I watched her look at the phone without unlocking it, watched her set it back down, watched her pick it up again. She was not calling anyone. She was not texting. She was holding the phone the way people hold objects when they need something solid in their hands because the ground has stopped feeling reliable. I did not repeat the question. I did not need to. The question was already in the room, fully formed, taking up all the available air. She finally put the phone down on the counter and turned to face me. Her eyes were wet, which was the first genuinely uncontrolled thing I had seen from her since she came home. She said that was not a fair question. I told her I was not trying to be fair. I was trying to understand what I was actually dealing with. She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that Qley got up from under the table and came to stand in the kitchen doorway, looking between us the way dogs do when they cannot identify the specific danger but know it is present. Then she said it. Quietly, without drama. She said she did not know. 3 words. I did not know. Not yes. Not no. I did not know is the answer that is worse than either of those because it means the question was real and the decision was conditional. And the only variable that had brought her back through that front door was not love or commitment or 9 years of a shared life. It was Marcus's availability. She had come home because the door she preferred had not opened all the way. I nodded. I remember feeling very calm in that moment, which surprised me. I had expected rage or grief or both. Instead, there was just clarity. The cold thing in my chest had been there since she walked in, and now I understood what it was. It was the feeling of knowing, of the last piece settling into place. I told her I needed her to leave for the night. I told her she should call her sister, or a friend, and find somewhere to be that was not our house. She started to argue, said we needed to talk this through, said we could not just stop in the middle of this conversation. I told her we were not stopping in the middle. We were finishing it. And I needed her gone so that I could figure out what I wanted. Because for 2 weeks, she had taken the time and space to do exactly that. And now it was my turn. She left within 40 minutes. She packed a smaller bag this time. Did not kiss me on the cheek. The door closed behind her, and Qley came and sat on my foot in the kitchen. And I stood there in the silence of that house for a very long time. I called my brother, whose name is Ray, and who is 5 years older than me, and has always been better at saying hard, true things gently. I told him everything, not the edited version I had been offering to friends. Everything. He listened without interrupting, which is one of his best qualities. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "You already know what you want to do." I said, "I think I do." He said then, "You should trust that." Clara and I had 3 more conversations over the following 2 weeks. Real ones. No choreography, no rehearsed conclusions. I told her that I did not believe a person goes on a 2-week trip to a country they associate with a former relationship, under the description of closure, and comes home genuinely uncertain whether they would have stayed if the other person had been free. I told her that the uncertainty itself was the answer I needed, that she had not chosen me. She had defaulted to me because the alternative had not fully presented itself. She cried. She said that was not entirely true. I said I believed her that it was not entirely true, but that the part of it that was true was the only part that mattered to me now. I filed for divorce 8 weeks after she walked back through the front door, looking tanned and at peace. The process took most of a year. We split everything cleanly, as cleanly as you can split 9 years of shared furniture and shared accounts, and a house that still had a leaky second bathroom we had never fixed. She moved into an apartment across the city. I kept the house. I kept Qley. That last point was the only one I held firm on without compromise, and she did not fight me on it. Marcus, I found out through a mutual friend much later, did eventually finalize his own divorce. Whether Clara and Marcus found whatever they had been looking for is not something I have any information about, and I have made the deliberate choice not to seek it out. That door is not mine anymore. I want to be clear about something because I think it is the part of this story that matters most. I am not telling this because I want sympathy or because I want Clara to be the villain of something. She was not a villain. She was a person who had not finished grieving something before she walked into the next chapter of her life and who eventually had to go back and face it. The tragedy is not that she went. The tragedy is that she was not honest, with me or with herself, about what going actually meant. The question I asked over a kitchen table, while putting away $40 dinner plates, was not clever. It was not a trap. It was just the one question that had no performable answer. You cannot rehearse your way out of I do not know. And in the moment, her hands started shaking, and she reached for her phone without unlocking it. I understood that she had known the question was coming. She had been bracing for it the whole time she was telling me about clarity and certainty and coming home. I am still in Portland. Huxley is 7 now and still refuses to be moved from the foot of the bed. The oak tree outside the office window is the same. The second bathroom still leaks slightly, and I have finally scheduled someone to fix it. Some things you build are real. Some things you build are real, but they are built on ground that was never as solid as it appeared. The difference between those two categories is not always visible from the inside. Sometimes it takes a question asked quietly over a cleared table and a pair of shaking hands and 3 words in a kitchen doorway to finally see which one you had been living in.